Okay. Hey, I'm the mama, and I think it's gonna be a boy.
What's going on? It's your boy Sosa. I'm the daddy. I'm telling girl, you feel me? Telling girl it's a girl, I already know it, man. You feel
July 9th, 2023. A quiet Sunday morning in Greenville, North Carolina. The kind of morning where the air feels still, like it's holding its breath. At exactly 9:43 a.m., dispatch received a call. A man's voice, rushed, panicked, claiming he'd come home to find his fiancée collapsed. He said she wasn't moving. He said she was pregnant. Then he went quiet. Paramedics arrived within minutes to apartment 302 at the Heritage at Arlington complex. What they found was devastating. Jasmine Cooper, 27 years old. 38 weeks into her pregnancy, she was lying on the floor, barely alive. Her pulse faint, her breath slowing, the baby's bag still packed, tiny onesies folded neatly inside, a stroller by the door, and just a few feet away, a bloodied knife in the kitchen sink. Nothing in that apartment was out of place. No sign of a break-in, no forced entry, but everything about what they saw was wrong. And the man who made that call had a story that didn't quite match the silence in that room. What happened in those final hours would tear a family apart and leave an entire community asking, how do you miss something this final? She was born in 1996, right in the heart of Greenville, North Carolina, a town where most people knew your name and your mother's too. From the beginning, Jasmine Lynn Cooper stood out, not in the loudest way, but in the way that lingers. The kind of little girl who hugged her teachers every morning, who always had her hand up in class not to prove anything, but because she genuinely wanted to understand the world. She was raised by her mother, Sharon Cooper, a woman who worked long shifts but never missed a school recital. It was just the two of them for most of Jasmine's life. And somehow, that was enough. They had a rhythm, a bond that showed in the way they laughed at the same jokes or finished each other's sentences. Sharon didn't have much, but she poured every bit of love she had into her daughter. By the time Jasmine reached her teenage years, her nurturing spirit had already bloomed. Babysitting was never just a side hustle. It was her joy. She was the one who brought snacks, stayed late, left little notes for the kids to wake up to. It didn't take long before that compassion steered her toward a path in nursing. She enrolled in school right after graduation, juggling long study nights with work shifts, determined to create something solid for herself and her daughter. Her friends remember her laughter first. That laugh that made you laugh even if you didn't catch the joke. She was a bright light. The kind of friend who'd drop everything to help you move, then still offer to buy lunch. She was the friend you could call crying at 2 a.m., and she'd answer every time. Her phone was always full of texts, full of screenshots of baby clothes she wanted to buy, full of pictures she never deleted. She documented life as it happened, raw and real, without filters. On social media, Jasmine wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was showing love for her daughter, her family, the little wins, the tough days, the big hopes. She shared vlogs of their mornings, her toddler dancing in the kitchen, sleepy hair and all. She posted videos of her baby bump growing week by week, captioned with names she was still deciding between. Her excitement for motherhood was never staged. It was honest. She'd talk to the baby while folding laundry, as if the little girl inside her could already hear. In a world that moved too fast, Jasmine slowed things down. She found joy in being a mom, and she wore that title proudly. But Jasmine wasn't just a mother. She was a woman rebuilding her future. She'd been through heartbreak before, and yet she still believed in love. She still hoped for a partner who would choose her every day, who would love her child like their own, who'd hold her hand not just when things were easy, but when they weren't. She still believed in family, in community, in new beginnings. To understand what was taken that Sunday morning, you have to first understand what existed before. This wasn't just a life cut short. It was a life that meant everything to the people who knew her. A daughter, a mother, a friend, a young woman who carried so much joy in her eyes, even when things weren't perfect. Jasmine Cooper wasn't just the name on a police report. She was somebody's everything. And that's where this story really begins. She was still in her early 20s when she met her first love. They were introduced through mutual friends, two young people who clicked easily. His name isn't often mentioned publicly, so we'll call him Hayden. Jasmine cared for him deeply, and for a while it seemed mutual. They were young, hopeful, maybe even a little reckless. But when Jasmine found out she was pregnant, she didn't panic. She embraced it. While it came as a surprise to those around her, Jasmine made it clear she was ready to love her child with everything she had. And she did. Their daughter became her anchor. The relationship between Jasmine and Hayden didn't last, but it didn't end in bitterness either. It shifted. He remained involved, showing up for his daughter, while Jasmine took on the day-to-day, school, work, and parenting, without ever appearing overwhelmed. She had full custody but made room for Hayden to be present. That balance wasn't easy, but Jasmine never looked for shortcuts. She was determined to raise her daughter with stability, with peace, with love that didn't come and go. And just as life began to feel settled, Jasmine met someone new. His name was Kayshawn Williams, though most people knew him as Quan, or online as Love Sosa. He was 29 years old, a truck driver by trade, and from the outside he seemed like a man who had it together. Thoughtful, attentive, generous. The kind who'd show up with flowers for no reason, who'd post long captions about love and loyalty. He made it easy for people to believe Jasmine had found her second chance, and maybe for a while, she believed it too. They shared everything. Birthdays, road trips, inside jokes. He wasn't just Jasmine's boyfriend. He became part of her daughter's life, part of the routine. Photos of the three of them filled her feed. In every post, she looked happy, safe, seen. It wasn't just Jasmine posting either. Quan shared their moments too. Together, they looked like a modern family on the rise, smiling through phone cameras, laughing in car vlogs, living out loud. 3 years into the relationship, he proposed, and Jasmine said yes. Not because it was perfect, but because she wanted to believe in love again. They moved in together, apartment 302, Heritage at Arlington Apartments. That was going to be the next chapter, the one where things finally lined up. A new home, a blended family, a fresh start. When Jasmine discovered she was pregnant again, she was overjoyed. She chose the name Kiyani early on. She wrote it in cursive across gift bags and talked to her unborn daughter like she was already in the room. Jasmine didn't hide her excitement. She shared her pregnancy updates proudly. Cravings, baby kicks, long days, soft moments. Her followers could feel her glow through the screen. They celebrated with a gender reveal. The theme was the princess and the frog, a nod to Jasmine's love for joy, for black girl magic, for tradition. Her friends came from out of town. Everyone wore purple and green. The mood was playful. People made guesses, laughed into the camera.
Cousin, it's gonna be a girl.
Friday, I'm a friend of Jazz from work, and I think it's gonna be a boy. My name is Destiny. I'm a friend of Jazz, and I think it's gonna be a girl.
Then came the big moment, a girl. Jasmine was glowing, but something else shifted that day. Quan's smile faded, just slightly, just enough for some to notice. He'd wanted a boy, he said it out loud. And though Jasmine brushed it off, people close to her would later say that was the first time they saw a crack. On social media, everything stayed the same. But sometimes the performance outlives the reality. The fairy tale didn't end that day, but it changed. And Jasmine, still carrying hope, still carrying life, kept smiling for the camera. By early April of 2023, the glow that once lit up Jasmine's posts had started to dim. Not enough for strangers to notice, but the people who loved her could feel it. She wasn't calling as much. Messages sat on read. Plans were canceled last minute. When friends finally saw her in person, they said her smile didn't reach as far. There were times she'd come around with long sleeves, even on warm days. Once, she said she'd fallen in the kitchen. Another time, she blamed her daughter's toy for the mark on her arm. Her mother remembers hugging her and feeling Jasmine flinch. Still, no one pushed too hard. And Jasmine didn't offer more. Behind closed doors, the mood at apartment 302 was changing. Quan had started acting different. The man who once showered her with gifts had grown cold. Jasmine told a close friend that he'd begun accusing her of cheating. First, it was subtle, questions about where she'd been, who she texted. Then, it escalated. Checking her phone when she wasn't looking, showing up unannounced at work, ignoring her when she tried to explain. He didn't want answers, he wanted control. At their gender reveal that month, everything looked beautiful. Balloons floated, guests laughed, Jasmine wore white, Kwan wore matching green. They posed together for pictures with smiles that didn't match their eyes. When the final box opened and pink confetti spilled out, Jasmine clapped. Kwan stood stiff. He'd told people he wanted a son, that a daughter would make him feel weak. After the party, he was quiet, and that silence followed them home. Over the next few weeks, Jasmine's updates slowed down. There were fewer belly photos, fewer happy captions, more reposts and vague quotes about trust, loyalty, and starting over. In private, she told someone close that she wasn't sure she was safe anymore. But she didn't leave. Then came May 15th, 2023. Jasmine was rushed to the hospital after a violent attack at home. According to what she told police, Kwan had accused her again of being unfaithful. And this time, it turned physical. She said he'd beat her, choked her, and told her if she ever tried to leave, he'd kill her. She was treated for her injuries and released. The bruises told a story even when she couldn't. That same day, she filed for a protective order, one she hoped would give her room to breathe. But like so many women, Jasmine still hoped things might go back to how they once were. That maybe the man who held her belly months ago could come back. Maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe he was just afraid. Maybe if she stayed calm, he would too. She thought love would fix it, but he'd already decided that control mattered more than family. The sun came up quietly over Greenville on Sunday, July 9th, 2023. By 7 a.m., most of the city was just beginning to stir. Church outfits were being ironed, coffee was brewing. But inside apartment 302, something was already unraveling. Jasmine was 38 weeks pregnant. Her hospital bag sat by the door. Diapers, folded onesies, pacifiers, all packed. That morning, she was planning to leave. Her family later confirmed she'd made up her mind. After months of fear, after the restraining order, after trying to make things work, she was done. Kwan knew. We don't know what words were exchanged in those final moments. There are no recordings, no witnesses, but the evidence tells a story, one that doesn't change no matter how many times you try to rewrite it. Jasmine was punched multiple times, hard enough to break skin and fracture bone. She was beaten with a metal pipe, the same one later found hidden under a blanket. The trauma to her skull was blunt, repeated. There were signs of manual strangulation, pressure on her neck, burst capillaries in her eyes. As if that wasn't enough, she was then stabbed in the abdomen, the place where her unborn daughter, baby Kiyani, had been growing. 38 weeks. Just days from delivery. Around 9 a.m., Kwan left the apartment. Security cameras from the complex captured him walking out calmly, carrying a bag. He drove to his mother's house, not far from West 14th Street. Then at 9:43 a.m., he dialed 911. He told the dispatcher he had just returned home to find Jasmine unconscious. He said he didn't know what happened, that he needed help. By the time emergency responders reached the scene, Jasmine was still alive, but just barely. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse was fading. They rushed her to ECU Health Medical Center, where doctors made a desperate attempt to save both mother and child. Inside the trauma unit, they moved fast. The baby had no heartbeat. Jasmine had lost too much blood. Despite every effort, baby Kiyani was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. And within the hour, Jasmine's heart stopped too. 2 lives lost, one violently ended, one never given the chance to begin. The autopsy later confirmed the extent of the violence. Blunt force trauma, asphyxiation, sharp force injuries to the abdomen. None of it could be explained by an accident. None of it matched the 911 call. There had been no break-in, no intruder, no mystery, only silence. And a man who claimed to be shocked by what he saw, while the evidence said something else entirely. The moment Jasmine was pronounced dead, Greenville police shifted from response to investigation. The crime scene inside apartment 302 was sealed. Forensics entered with cameras, gloves, and evidence markers. What they found didn't require speculation. The living room showed signs of struggle. The hallway wall had transfer stains, blood that had smeared, not spattered. In the bedroom, closer to where Jasmine was found, they recovered a metal pipe, still wet with blood. In the kitchen, they found a knife, tucked behind a stack of dishes. Both weapons were collected and rushed to the lab. The results came back fast. Jasmine's blood was on both, and Kayshawn Williams' fingerprints were there too. No other prints. No glove residue. No forced entry at any door or window. Nothing pointed to a break-in, and everything pointed to someone already inside. Investigators expanded their search. They pulled surveillance footage from nearby businesses and cameras posted at the apartment complex. One clip showed Quan at a nearby convenience store, just after 9 a.m. on the morning of the murder. He was buying snacks, calm, alone. Another camera, a home security system from a neighbor down the hall, caught him walking out of Jasmine's apartment. He carried a black duffel bag. No rush, no panic. Just walked out, locked the door, and left. By the time he called 911 at 9:43 a.m., Jasmine had already been bleeding internally for over an hour. Greenville PD issued an alert for Quan's location. Days passed. Tips trickled in. On Saturday, July 15th, investigators tracked him to his mother's house on the 1100 block of Eagle Chase Lane, just miles from where Jasmine took her last breath. Officers surrounded the home. He refused to come out. The Fugitive Criminal Apprehension Team and Emergency Response Unit were called in. A 2-hour standoff followed. No shots were fired, no injuries reported. Eventually, Quan surrendered. He was taken into custody without incident. No bond. 2 charges: first-degree murder of Jasmine Cooper and first-degree murder of her unborn daughter, Kiyani. He did not speak publicly, but his social media did. Just hours after the news broke, Quan posted what looked like a tribute. He wrote that he was broken, that he missed Jasmine, that he didn't know how to live without her. But investigators had already seen the evidence. They already had the timeline. They already knew. It wasn't grief, it was a cover. Her name was Jasmine Cooper. She was 27 years old, a mother, a daughter, a friend, a soon-to-be mom again. She had folded her baby's blankets. She had written her unborn daughter's name on a chalkboard above the crib, Kiyani. That name was spoken with love long before it ever reached the birth certificate. But Kiyani never opened her eyes. She never took a breath. She never felt her mother's heartbeat from the outside. When word of Jasmine's death spread, the disbelief was immediate, the grief overwhelming. Her family was shattered. There is no preparation for something like this, not for a mother to bury her child, not for a child to be taken from the world before she even arrived. There was no comfort in knowing who did it, because the person they trusted, the man who had stood beside Jasmine at baby showers, kissed her forehead in social media videos, smiled wide at the gender reveal, was the one behind it. And then, as if the silence hadn't been loud enough, Quan posted to Facebook a message full of heartbreak, grammatical errors, misspelled pain, fake remorse. He said he was lost without her, that he didn't know how to go on, that he missed his family. But police already had what they needed: the knife, the fingerprints, the footage, the timeline, the lies. Jasmine's friends didn't fall for the post. Her mother didn't either. What they saw was a performance, a public play for pity, staged by the same hands that had caused the loss. In the days that followed, the community stepped in. They held vigils. They passed out flyers with Jasmine's face on them. They gathered in parks and on church steps, candles burning low, hands raised high. Purple shirts, the color of domestic violence awareness, lined the sidewalks of Greenville. Strangers who never met her still said her name, because her story felt too familiar, too close to home. When police were asked why this hadn't been prevented, the Greenville police chief told reporters that there had been no prior domestic calls to their address, that this case stood out because Jasmine had done what she was supposed to. She filed the protective order, she reported the violence, she tried to leave, and still, it wasn't enough. This isn't just a story about what happened to Jasmine. It's about what we keep missing. The comments we dismiss, the bruises we explain away, The phone calls we don't return because we assume everything is fine. It's about systems built to respond too slowly. Paperwork that moves through offices while victims sleep with one eye open. It's about what happens when women like Jasmine do everything they're told to do and still never make it to their next chapter. She tried to get help. She asked for it on paper. She whispered it to her friends. She trusted the process. But the system she turned to didn't move fast enough. And now a daughter has lost her mother. A mother has lost her daughter. A child has lost her name before ever hearing it spoken aloud. Her name was Jasmine Cooper. She was a mother, a daughter, a sister, a nurse. She braided her little girl's hair before daycare. She danced in the kitchen when her favorite song came on. She laughed loud, loved deep, forgave easily. She believed people could change. She thought loyalty could make things better. She stayed longer than she should have, because she wanted her family to work. She didn't just carry life inside her, she made it brighter for everyone around her. She wasn't statistics. She wasn't headlines. She wasn't just what was done to her. Jasmine was someone, and her story, it matters, not because it ended the way it did, but because it didn't have to. If you're listening right now and something about Jasmine's story feels familiar, maybe in your home, your friend's home, your sister's voice, your daughter's silence, please don't wait. Don't explain it away. Don't tell yourself it's not your place. Check in, speak up, call someone. Domestic violence doesn't always leave bruises you can see, but it always leaves signs. Jasmine tried to leave. She filed a report. She told someone. She did everything we say victims should do, and still, no one got there in time. So now it's on us. Say her name, share her story. Let Jasmine Cooper be more than a cautionary tale. Let her be a call, a reason to listen harder, respond faster, care deeper. And if you or someone you know is in danger, don't wait. Contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-7233 or text START to 88788. There are people who will believe you, people who will stand with you. You are not alone. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, do not let it end here. Like this video to push Jasmine's voice further. Subscribe for more stories that deserve to be heard, and share this with someone, because awareness only saves lives when it travels. Her name was Jasmine. Let's make sure no one forgets it.